As Russia's war against Ukraine rages on and the West continues its support of a counteroffensive, a new report details the connection between Western mining companies and the funding of Russia's invasion. A consortium of international researchers and human rights activists has launched a joint investigation. It looks into the role of Western mining companies in funding violence in West Africa and Russia's war against Ukraine. The report highlights that gold mining revenues in Mali account for 50% of the government's total budget, and that the Malian junta has paid the Russian Wagner Group $12 million per month since 2020. Two of Canada's biggest gold companies, Barrick Gold and B2 Gold, have large presences in Mali. Well, joining us now to discuss the report is former Hungarian Member of Parliament and co-author of this report, Mr. Zoltan Kesz. Mr. Kesz, welcome to Forum Daily.
Thank you very much for having me. Thanks for the opportunity to speak.
Now, this is a very interesting report that your group has published, but unfortunately, we only have about 4 minutes to unpack some of this. So let's start off by what you want our viewers to know or take away from this research.
Well, obviously, the Blood Gold report has been launched to explore, document, and highlight the links between these Western companies that you mentioned, the authoritarian African governments, and also the Russian private military contractors, for example, the Wagner Group that you also mentioned. I think it's very important to understand for our viewers who are watching this program that, for example, are wearing jewelry or have jewels at home, gold at home, what they are wearing, whether there is blood attached to the gold that they are wearing, whether the blood that they have bought, they have invested in, is sponsoring the Russian army in killing innocent Ukrainian people. I think this is very, very important to understand. So our research team has been set up to identify and highlight the links between these Western companies, the authoritarian regimes, and definitely the Russian mercenaries. In my opinion, the most important takeaway from our research is accountability, as I mentioned. So you have the right, the public has the right to know who is involved, what companies are involved, and to what extent they are involved in this. So we want to raise awareness. We want to hold those accountable who are responsible for sponsoring the attacks on, for example, Ukrainians and Central Africans and Western African innocent people. So we want to find the connections.
All right, sir. And really getting into this research, can you tell us a little bit more about the role that these Western mining companies play in the perpetuation of this violence in Africa and the funding of Russia's war in Ukraine? And if you could tell us a little bit more about Canada's connection to all of this, that would be great as well.
Well, obviously, it's not only Canadian companies that are present in the region. Yes, you mentioned two Canadian companies, Barrick Gold and B2 Gold, but there are other companies that are present in Mali, for example. And as you have perfectly pointed out, they are playing the tunes of the juntas. They are playing the tunes of the regimes that are the authoritarian regimes now at the moment, also sponsoring Russia's war effort in Ukraine. So we want to find these links. However, we also believe that there are fair players in the industry, fair players who will come out and help our research to point out and highlight those who are really the responsible companies. Whether it's the Canadian companies or the other companies, we don't know, but we want to find out.
Who are these 5 players that you're referring to, sir?
So basically, as you mentioned, Barrick Gold, B2 Gold, Resolute Mining, Hummingbird Resources. These are the companies that we have identified are having a larger presence in the area. So we're looking for answers, as I pointed out earlier.
All right, just about a minute left here, sir. But how are these mining companies able to get away with this so far? What are some of the legal loopholes that they're using right now?
Well, it's interesting that you're mentioning loopholes. However, once you look at the political systems in Western Africa and Central Africa, these are not necessarily loopholes that we're talking about. These are so-called I wouldn't say so-called, but these are the legal challenges that we're looking at. So in these countries, they find the connection with the government. They find the connection in how to extract gold from the mines, how to pay the government, how to pay the juntas, and how the juntas would pay, for example, Wagner. So in this case, it's a win-win situation for the authoritarian governments. It's a win for the gold companies. It's not necessarily a win for the public, but we don't know about it at the moment. That's what we want to find out, and we will definitely find out about it.
Lots to uncover. Again, Mr. Kesz, thank you so much for joining us today and unpacking some of this for us.
Thank you very much for having me.